What's going on, guys? I'm Tommy and I'm coming at you with an action figure review. Today I'm going to be reviewing Hasbro the Vintage Collection The Stranger Qimir from the Acolyte. Qimir was a very highly requested figure to join the TVC line ever since the release of the Acolyte. Whether you like the show or not, a lot of people can agree that at least the looks of Qimir are very appealing and very striking too. So when TVC got Qimir shortly after Black Series, it left a lot of TVC fans rejoicing. I did pick this figure up on a pre-order through Big Bad Toy Store. That's the place I go to for most of my action figure orders and pre-orders. Definitely recommend them if you're a collector in the US. They have a great pile of loot feature, great shipping, great service. Highly recommend them. Qimir is a mainline release for the Vintage Collection kicking off in 2026, and he comes in the standard style of packaging for the line as well. On the card back here, we have our 4+ and warning, our Star Wars logo with the Acolyte logo inside. We have the name of the character and the name pill down below that. Some really nice card art here as well. I love this dynamic pose we have for him. Hopefully, the figure will be able to get some dynamic poses as well. Inside the bubble here, we have the figure and the accessories, Kenner logo down at the bottom, and then on the back of the card back here, we have our nice glam shot of the figure in front of the card back, also noting he is VC number 382. We have the character name again, and then we have a bio in about 1,000 different languages. This bio reads, "Adopting the alias Qimir, the stranger acts as a shiftless drifter. Little is known of this Darksider who trains May and Asaya in secret, hiding his face from his pupil." Below that bio, we have the Vintage Collection logo, and then below that, we have all of our legalese. Guys, please, don't feed this action figure to your babies. But with that about wraps up the packaging on this guy, so let's just get him right open and we'll check him out. Alright guys, here is Qimir out of the box. Before we take a look at the figure, let's of course take a look at his spread of accessories. One of the first accessories I want to point out here is this helmet here. This is actually a swappable head, which I much prefer, especially at the smaller scale, over the removable helmet concept, just because it keeps everything very proportional. You can get bobblehead looking figures when you have those removable helmets, and I think the swappable heads are a much better option. The base plastic that this helmet is made of is really cool. It's very pearlescent. It's got a little bit of like a marbling effect to it, and it does a great job of giving that very shiny bronze cortosis color. We've got some nice paint apps throughout the helmet too, some of them just showing the seam lines in the helmet where he has cracks that he has maybe repaired or something like that. And then we also have obviously the big smile for our guy Smilo Ren here in that nice silvery color. Overall, this is a really impressive looking accessory, and I think for me this is going to be how I end up posing him on the shelf, is with this helmet on. Then of course the rest of our accessories for this figure have to do with his lightsabers. So what's really cool here is he has his lightsaber hilt without the blade attached. I do prefer that TVC does this over what Black Series does, which is the removable blades, because a lot of times those blades tend to snap, the pegs snap, it's just not a good time. So we have a peg that's sculpted in here so that this could in theory go on his belt. The sculpted detail is nice, no paint whatsoever. It looks to just be done on a kind of like metallic looking black plastic, but it has the basic details of his lightsaber hilt, and at a scale this small, I can't ask for much more. And then we take a look at Qimir's saber ignited. It looks like the way that they put this together, it looks like it's two separate pieces and you can't actually have them together. So the way that Qimir's lightsaber works is these hilts here go together when there's no blades ignited, and then that's the Shoto saber, kind of like the hidden saber within the main one there. However, I do get if they're ignited, you're probably going to have them in a two-handed pose or just have the one in his hand. Either way, it's fine. He does have a very nice vibrant red color to the lightsaber blade. I like those deeper, more vibrant colors for the blades in these action figure lines. I think they pop a lot more on the shelf than the duller colors do. And we have the same color for the lightsaber hilt. I think it's painted this time because this is all one piece. And then the same can be said for his little Shoto saber here. It's just a smaller version of the main lightsaber. Once again, we can see some of the basic detail of the lightsaber hilt and that same nice deep red vibrant color for the blade. So taking a look at Qimir here, this is a really impressive looking figure. The thing I want to point out first, of course, is the likeness. I think that this whole wave between Qimir, Shakti, and and Padme did a great job of getting some good character likenesses here. This looks a lot like Manny Jacinto, and it's very impressive for this small of an action figure scale to achieve that. Qimir's hair sculpt is done very, very nicely. It's almost like a rubbery material. You can see I can actually move the hair with great ease on the head here, but the paint apps on the face look really nice. The eyebrows, the eyes, the lips, the facial hair, both the mustache and the goatee are all painted really nicely. The hair also has some nice sculpted texture to it, so it gives it some depth when it hits the light. Very, very nicely done. Qimir does have this big soft goods poncho here, and I do prefer this soft goods approach over the sculpted plastic in this case, just because the sculpted plastic could really hinder articulation, especially you want a character like this to get into some more athletic, dynamic posing. So it seems to be stitched in 2 layers here. You have the outer part of the poncho, which is a little bit of a, waist length. And then below that, you have the layer, which is a bit longer, drapes down to the knees a bit more, and it makes for a great silhouette. I think that the way this is stitched makes it so he doesn't look like he has a giant napkin on. I think it lays very, very nicely. Now, if you want to remove this, you just simply remove the figure's head. Just gently pull it like that. You can pull those soft goods right off, revealing a whole different costume for this figure. And again, as you can see, getting the head back on is very, very easy. Qimir's got a little bit of a giraffe neck going on, but the sculpting on the neck does look pretty good still nonetheless. As far as the tabards for the tunics go, those are done very, very nicely. He's got great muscular arms that are sculpted really nicely too. You can even see like the vein in his bicep. That's actually pretty impressive, again, for a scale this small to get detail like that. You can see they did paint on some dirt from the jungle of Kofar on his right forearm there. That is just on the outside of the forearm. And you can see his hand is sculpted to hold the lightsaber hilt. And then on the left arm, of course, you'll see that the skin tone is actually painted on this instead of sculpted in like the rest of the arm. That is because they have the cortosis bracer here, and they sculpted it in the cortosis color. The cortosis seems to also have its own paint applications applied to it as well. That's actually really cool. It's got a great metallic effect. It looks like it has lots of pitting in there in the sculpt work, and I'm very, very impressed with how both the helmet and the bracer look here. At the torso here, we have some more paint apps on the back here. Very, very subtle, but they look really, really nice. You can see he's got just some different tabards that go across here, and the sculpt of the folds and the wrinkles of the clothes are also done very well. You can see his belt, while very basic, is also very nicely done with some nice sculpted texture, and you can see on the left side of his belt, he also has the hole for the peg for the lightsaber hilt there. The bottom half of this figure is pretty plain all said and done. You get lots of folds and billowing wrinkles here for his almost bell-bottom pants here, and you can see they actually did a great job of painting on some more mud to match up with the forearms there for the jungles of Kofar. It's very subtle paintwork, but I think it's done really, really well, especially down here by the soles of the boots. I really like how they achieved this. Other than that, all said and done, this is a pretty plain look for this figure in the way of the sculpted and painted detail, but it is extremely accurate to what we see in the Acolyte series, and I'm actually really happy with how this was executed. I know that the Black Series version of this figure went with some soft goods pants to really make those billow a lot better. I think for TVC it looked a lot more jarring with the sculpted look on the promo photos, but I think in hand it's just fine, doesn't bother me at all. So let's talk about Qimir's articulation next here. So he is a brand new figure, so he's going to have all of the newest articulation scheme for the TVC line. At the top of the head here, we have a barbell joint. So there's one ball joint that goes into the top of the neck, one that goes into the head, so we can get all kinds of range out of that neck there. You can see Qimir can look down just a little bit. He can also look up just a little bit as well. The rubberiness of the hair does help it to move out of the way when you want him to look up. He does get some basic tilt here, which is good, and he can of course look right and look left. We do have the hinge and swivel at the shoulders here. Now the torso does hang over the shoulders, so that is going to hinder your articulation just a little bit compared to other TVC releases, but you can still get slightly past that 90-degree mark at the hinge there, which is really good and more than most Black Series figures get. You also have a 360-degree swivel at the shoulder, and I will say in that way the tabards do flex and move themselves out of the way, especially when you're bringing those arms straight up, so it does not hinder the articulation in that way. We have another hinge and swivel at the elbows here, here, so you're going to get a hinge that gets you a little past that 90-degree mark. Very impressive, again, for a scale this small to get this kind of articulation range. We also have a swivel at the top of the elbow, which is great, and then keeping with the theme of hinge and swivel, we have the same at the wrists here. So right wrist, we have a swivel with a vertical hinge, which has plenty of range, and the same can be said about the left wrist as well. At the waist, we have a ball joint, which is going to give us some pretty limited articulation all said and done, but you can get it to move forward and back. It's not as fluid as most ball joints are for the Black Series line. And then what's really interesting about this figure, and has left some fans with a sour taste in their mouth, is the removal of thigh swivel and going with the newer hip joints that Black Series has been going with on a lot of their newer figures. So it is a ball joint just like any ball joint is, but what it does is it moves in and out in the same way that a thigh swivel would. Now, what I have to say is funny here is that this one does this better than most Black Series figures that have this same point of articulation. So maybe Black Series should take notes from TVC on how to successfully use this point of articulation with these modified hips, because look how far I can get that leg out and have the toe facing away from the body. That is more than most Black Series figures will get you. Then, of course, at the knees, we have some very, very deep cut single joints here to accommodate for those baggy pants. They can get just past that 90-degree mark, so that's still very exceptional here. We do, of course, have a swivel at the top of the knee. Then down here, we have, you would technically call it a boot swivel. This bottom of the pant is hollow, and there's a piece of like the lower leg that goes up and into it, and you can actually swivel that whole boot up in there. So that's also going to help us to get those wider stances. And then at the ankles here, we have our Hasbro Classic, the forward-facing pin for rocker, which gets a surprising amount of range even with that low pant leg there. And then we have a hinge, which can't really get you much forward, but can get you a little bit of back again. It all depends on how you work those feet underneath those pant legs there. But all in all, this is a really impressive figure. I'm really impressed by both the sculpt and the articulation on this guy. So let's just get him kitted out with his accessories and get him posed up. So I think the first thing I want to do is just show off how the lightsaber hilt looks on the belt here. You can see the peg fits very nicely into the peg hole there, and that does have a nice secure fit. It does also pass the shake test, so we won't have to worry about that falling off the figure when it's on display. Obviously though, with a character like Qimir, we'd be remiss to be having the lightsaber not ignited on him, but it is nice that they include it nonetheless. I think I want to switch to the helmeted look, so let's remove the head for the likeness here, and then let's put our cloak back on. I don't believe there's a right or wrong way, like a front versus a back, but this piece that's just a little bit shorter in the front, or at least it appears to be, feels like the front to me. And then let's get our Stranger helmet, our Smilo Ren helmet on. That was very easy to swap out, and that also has some really nice articulation range. Honestly, probably a little better than the human head. You can see that can look down nicely. You can also look up just a little bit too, get some good tilt out of it for sure, and your right and your left. As for the lightsabers here, we can get the major blade into the right hand very easily. The fingers flex right out of the way for you to do that, but it's still a good grip. It does pass the shake test. What I love about this figure while I'm posing him around is that I can just kind of fold these soft goods pieces and the layers kind of hold themselves in place really nicely. This really helps the posing to get more dynamic, as you can make it look like he's moving and the wind is kind of pushing his cloak along as he moves. Here's Qimir in a nice mid-stride pose with the saber out, stalking his prey. Maybe he's about to take out some unsuspecting Jedi. This is a great pose. He's got a great center of gravity. Not that he frequently does this. Usually he predominantly wields his saber in just one hand, but you can get a two-handed saber pose very, very easily with this character as well, and that's awesome too if you want more of a defensive stance for him. Of course though, ideally we want him dual wielding, so we're gonna get that Shoto saber into the left hand there. You can see that sits really nicely in the left hand, and it still passes the shake test. That's awesome for a two-handed character. Here's another really nice wide pose for Qimir here. The soft goods do a great job of laying very nicely. They did a good job of stitching them so that as you're doing those more dynamic poses, never does it look like a napkin. I think the color match is also really good to the pants. Nothing looks very jarring on this figure to me. And here's a really nice one-legged pose. He's getting ready to lunge down, do a downward strike on a Jedi here. And what I love about this figure is it's almost like wired soft goods, the way that you can play with the layers and get them to flow in more windswept ways. And the sabers look great in hand. He's got great posability, and clearly with this one-legged pose, a great center of gravity once again. Overall, guys, this is one of those reviews where I kind of have to just stop myself from posing the figure around because I'm just having too much fun doing so. This is a fantastic TVC figure. If you're looking to dip your toes into TVC, the Stranger is the perfect kind of figure to do that, because this has all the latest and greatest strongest in articulation and sculpt and paint, and it is just such a fun figure. The mixed media with the soft goods inclusion is just so great as well. This figure is not going to stay on the shelf very long. He's definitely going to find his way back to my desk. I'm going to be posing him around a lot. Definitely really happy with this one. But with that, guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did and you're not yet subscribed, subscribe to Blitz Transmissions. I've got awesome Star Wars content coming out all the time. If you're an ARC Trooper in my Patreon, you would have seen this review early. If you'd like access to early content, monthly giveaways, and other awesome benefits, the link to my Patreon is in the description below. Become an ARC Trooper for just $4.99 a month. If you're a fan of the reviews I do here on YouTube, or you just want to support the YouTube channel more directly, you could also check out my YouTube channel membership, Rancor Battalion. For just 99 cents a month, you get access to exclusive badges, priority replies in my comment section, you get to watch all my reviews early here on YouTube, and you get to vote on what I review next for the channel, just like the Patreon members do. If you'd like some Blitz Transmissions swag, you could always head over to the Blitz Transmissions Armory over on Printify. Link to that is in the description below, as well as links to my Discord and all my social media. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. I'll catch you for the next one, and may the Force be with you.
Breaking off. All units, fire at will. 1-2, pick your targets. Too many, Captain. Watch your stabilizer, Gold 6. Anybody cover me. I got 2 vultures on my tail. You've got to hold them here. Watch your left. I can't shake them. I'm hit. I'm hit. Where's our reinforcements?